Behind every gym, there's a story, a mission, a spark of passion that started it all. This is Gymdesk Originals. Real owners, real struggles, and the communities they've built from the ground up.
So I'm walking the streets of New York, going to visit another awesome customer I have a little personal connection to. I'm going to Henzo Gracie in the Upper East Side. This is one of the first places I trained in jiu-jitsu about like 15 years ago in a different location with Henzo's original location. So I'm super excited to check this place out. Let's go across the street. There it is right there, Henzo Gracie, East Side Martial Arts. Going up to the second floor. Jason.
Pleasure to meet you, Jason.
Rob.
Nice to meet you.
Hey guys, if you're ever up in on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, 85th and Lexington Avenue, Henzo Gracie's Upper East Side, brand new facility, awesome locker room, awesome environment, great community. Please stop by. We'd love to have you.
All right, here we are at Eastside Henzo Gracie. It's so cool to come in again to one of the first places that I ever trained. I mentioned earlier, I trained at Henzo's, like 16 years ago when I was a much younger lad. And it's amazing to see the expansion. Would love to learn more about you and your history in martial arts and your background and your relationship with Henzo and all that. Tell us your story.
I started BJJ in 1998, just randomly. I actually joined a karate school 3 months prior, and I got to yellow belt. In that karate school, there was a gentleman that started an Awaza class, which I guess in Japanese is round fighting. They invited me into the class, and I was stoked right from the very beginning. He was starting to show his chokes and stuff. And about at the 2.5 way mark, I ended up going to a competition that he competed in New Jersey. There was one team that was dominating the whole event. They were called actually the Henzo Gracie Cyclones. So if you have a little bit of history behind it, it was the Henzo Gracie Cyclone. I didn't know who Henzo was. I didn't know who the Gracie Jamboree was, but I was like stoked to find out. And ended up, Henzo at that time probably wasn't the best businessman. For young people, YouTube didn't exist. The way you found facilities was you called 411 or you looked in the yellow pages. In the yellow pages, we didn't have an ad. So I called 411 and they would give me a number. I would call that number every single day for about 4 weeks. No one would ever answer the phone. Oh, I would call and call. And to one point, I asked my wife if we could stop by because I actually got a friend that gave me an address. I stopped by. I went upstairs on a Friday night. I walked in. It's well known. It used to be called the Methadone Clinic because the 2 floors underneath it were a methadone clinic. I walked in, the elevator door opened. As you walked in, there was a small mat space with guys rolling. People that know who Sean Williams is, he was the first person to walk up to me and said, "Hey, what are you here for?" And I said, "I just wanted to watch." And I asked him how I can take a class. He ended up telling me, "Come back on Monday, new class." I showed up there. Matt Serra was the teacher. People who know who Matt Serra is was welterweight champion in the UFC at one time, BGSC. Took his class and was just hooked after that. About a month into that, I meet John Danaher, who's a fellow student.
Yeah.
And now everybody knows who John Danaher is. And I met him very first time. He showed me a move and I hit a Kimura. Didn't know what a Kimura was. Hit it. And he told me, "Hey kid, come over here." I walked over there and he said, "Good job." He said, "Next time also do this." And that's how that relationship started. Weird thing is 5.5 years later, John Danaher gave me a black belt. I was John Danaher's first black belt. And when he left to go to Puerto Rico and take the kids from the team, I took over the program. I owe a great amount of debt to him. He taught me the game at an incredible deep detail. He taught me how to think about the game also in an analytical way. I can't thank him enough. And then I still continue to teach the advanced class there. And I'm a big believer in the community and the environment of the school, what the school does and what BJJ does for people. BJJ isn't just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and fighting for me. It's a meditative, spiritual, accomplishes a lot more stuff.
Yeah, really amazing story. I just saw on Facebook that John's recovering from surgery, I think, right?
He's actually in New York. On Friday, we went up to see his doctor. On Monday, he got the surgery. Pretty amazing. Johnny, if people don't know, Johnny was born with a bunch of disabilities with one leg longer than the other. And anytime you have those things, other things start to fall apart later in life because you're out of balance. I just would like to say that I'm a huge fan of BJJ. I'm a huge fan of movement. Even at this age, I'm 55 years old, I watch so much breakdancing and popping videos. I'm such a big person of movement and fluidity and motion. And that's why I love BJJ. When it's done well, it's done artistic and great. The reason I'm saying this is that people, the young people today see John Danaher and how he walks the top. He's the greatest player that I've ever seen play the game. He is that good. People never got to see him in his prime and how fluid and beautiful and more. I tell this story. I had a teacher in probably 7th grade. I wasn't a well-behaved student. I was out of control. I lived on white sugar, and the only way they could control me was they would put me next to the teacher, and I was glued to her side because I was uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And so one time she went, people that know a little bit of ballet, and I'm not a ballet, but I do know what Kelberhoff is. And she had gone to see the ballet, and she was a big ballet buff. So I was stuck to her side. So I would have to speak to her all the time. And she said, Michael, I saw the most incredible thing last night. And I said, what? And she said, I saw him perform. And I went, what was so incredible about it? And she said, it was the way he moved. I can't explain it, the fluidity and the motion and the gracefulness and the economy of movement. And that's the way I'd like to describe John Danaher when I would watch him roll in his prime. It was incredible, the efficiency and movement. And I'm still a fan of movement. And so people that don't know about John in his prime, it's just spectacular to watch. Unfortunately, his body betrayed him at a very rapid pace because some of the limitations and off balancing of his body.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in a few of the classes where he was there on the side and such. And he gave me a couple tips. Probably doesn't remember me. Here I am, the same rank, 18 years later. But yeah, it was definitely an amazing experience. And I feel fortunate to have trained in the same place with all these heroes of mine. Frankly, it's really cool. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you, your journey and your connection to the gym in this particular dojo.
I was 38 years old, 240 pounds, smoking, 2 packs, 1.5, 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And just a real mess. But I had seen jiu-jitsu. I'd watched Gracie in UFC 1 back in 1993. Yeah. And I wanted to do jiu-jitsu from that moment until the day that I walked into Henzo Racing Academy. Every day I wanted to do, just took me 25 years to walk in the door. Harley Flanagan, it's a local legend, like it's a New York hardcore legend. He did my intro class. It wasn't really the hardcore scene, but I knew he was somebody. I knew all the Gordon and Eddie Collins was in there. All the famous people, John Danaher. It was just starstruck walking in that room, and it was cool to be there. And I started rolling. I just wanted to fight to the death on the first day, trying with no technique, just trying to sprawl out of people's clothes hard. My groin was sore from trying to pinch my legs closed and hold people. Yeah. It just got hooked to me immediately. I fell in love with it immediately.
Yeah. So then you're training since 18, you said?
Since 2018.
Yeah. And then what's your connection here? How did you guys end up teaming up and getting this place going?
Mike has taken over 2 gi classes in the morning at Henzo's before he took over the no gi building. And I was training with him in the gi Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I appreciated his style. He talks about movement. I didn't get to see John Danaher in his prime, but I got to see Mike Hoover. Mike is very impressive also. And there are a bunch of other people at the gym also a fan of movement and efficiency. There's a weird thing called brace.
Yeah.
And I would watch and I would think if I can move somewhat like that would be a win. But
yeah,
he does now.
Yeah, and when you were, what I was imagining when you said like fluidity and movement, sometimes there's like this gracefulness to Tai Chi or some of these forms that are in guys who roll like that, and it's just smooth and flows, almost like it's choreographed, but it's not. And that you have that level of appreciation. Like I know enough to be like, wow, there's something special about what's happening there. Cause it's not forced or muscle. It's just, I get what
It's
you're
almost
saying.
like water blending in around them. And then you're not using strength. You're just redirecting strength. And you're like misaligning spinal cords and angles. And that's when the game becomes, I don't play chess, but I can understand the idea behind it. And it becomes like human chess of angles and small wedges and precision in like how you manipulate spinal cords. It's game becomes really fun to play.
Yeah. Even today on the class, it's a basic class and I've learned the choke many times over my judo and jiu-jitsu career. But when you go back to the basics again, and then you're like, oh yeah, but if the leg was just a little bit in this position, just that one thing I wasn't doing for the last 10 years. Yeah. Oh wow, I can get the bow and arrow choke way easier now that I get that leg out of the way. So it feels like this game never ends. And I'm sure at your levels, you still feel like you're learning too, right?
I don't think you should ever stop feeling that way.
Yeah.
For young people, they come into class, and if this is just a suggestion for them, you should always go with that mindset that you're going to learn something, because sometimes an instructor can show something that you've seen a million times. It's so critical that you pay attention to everything they do, because sometimes you can walk away with a different perspective that maybe might be something you say, I would never do that. I would never add that. And you start to mold your game with adoption of things that flow into patterns that move, like synergistically, like a beautiful flow of sequences when you adopt and you drop move.
Yeah. Yeah. And you chain them together, right?
Yeah.
When this happens, then you flow in. So moving into, you guys were training at headquarters for a long time. Why open your own school? What was the inspiration?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Actually started with him. I had gotten my 5th degree, done a 5th degree black belt, and some of the guys wanted to take me out to eat afterwards. And I had asked him, just kidding around, and he usually left to work. And that particular day, he said he'd come. And I said, you got to go to work. And he said, no, I quit my job. I said, what do you mean you quit your job? He had a really good job. And he said, man, I spoke to my wife and I just wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I want to do something that makes me happy. And we left there. I thought, man, like, how could I help him? Because he's a good friend. And when I would do privates, like, he never said no to not being my uki, like, always helped me out. And that's how we started. And initially we started with a thing called a happy pill. Not everybody can afford DVDs. Right. And we just love BJJ so much, and it transforms people's lives. So we started thinking a happy pill where we just would record my lessons, and then Eighth would edit them up and put them in like a format so people can learn. And then another young lady, Cynthia, who's our manager here, she put together this like a PDF where somebody could see the move, then press the picture of the move, and it would take it to YouTube on the day I taught the move.
Oh, wow.
So it was really cool. It was all for free. And we just wanted to really help people. And then what we started doing was doing free seminars and just going around and spreading BJJ to people and knowledge. Not everybody can afford a $200 DVD. And some of those DVDs, like a bigger storyline's not explained of why you do something and when you can do it. They're just shown moves. And then you're supposed to do these moves, and then you don't adopt them because they don't work. And no one's explained to you, like, that does not work blue against black, or that only works black to black, or that doesn't work when somebody's 50 pounds bigger than you and they're this size. Like, so we tried to explain the game on a deeper level. And then that led into us doing stuff for a company called We Defy. It's not a company, it's a nonprofit, where they take military veterans that suffer they don't call it PTSD anymore. So it's called,
they say military connected disabilities. I think they want to be more inclusive and not just people who have more physical limitations or psychological issues.
So what they do is they put a military veteran that qualifies with a certain score in a BJJ program, and they pay for 1 year of IM2s. On average, it's about $2,800 to get one veteran in. We also have people that follow up to make sure they're going to class. These are people that are suicidal. I've heard guys tell me stories, gun in the mouth, like ready to go. And what BJJ does is it creates it does a couple of things. Like it does something with, is it the pineal gland, the vagus gland? They medically have a reason why it helps, but because they have an issue. They have a couple issues. They have one where they feel like they have no purpose. They've lost their tribe. Like when they were in the military, they had this community. BJJ replaced that community. It also, they have a fear of flight mechanism in it, where they learn to, when they have that fear, that there's an outlet where they can tap. So there's two things, but not to get off the subject. So we met that program, and then with the Happy Pill and a little bit of like internet, like people finding us on there, we started doing these seminars and raising money. And total, I don't know, maybe we've raised a couple 100,000 already.
Wow.
This year, I think we raised about 90,000. The year before, we raised around 90,000. And total, I think the two of us have gotten like 90 people in programs, and they're in 48 states. I don't know. I think right now they have about 800 people in the program, and there's a waiting list for more people to get into the program, but it goes to how much money we can raise. We've done so many of them. We've gone to Fort Dix, Fort McGuire, and just
Seattle.
Yeah, we've gone to Seattle, Atlanta, we've just all over raising money and just spreading what BJJ is. We do it for free, as much time as we can to devote to it. But that turned into him one day going, why don't we do a gym? And I was like, you want to do a gym? And he was like, yeah, why don't we do a gym? And so the two of us got in the car one day. We literally drove all over Queens. And at one point we were about to be in Forest Hills, Queens. And whatever reason, we couldn't make that deal work. And we ended up, a friend of ours who's also a partner asked Henzo if we could do the Upper East Side, because we wanted to be in, I would have loved to be in the Manhattan market, but it was an unwritten rule that you don't enter Manhattan. There's over 100 Henzo Gracie affiliates, but Manhattan was off limits. And Henzo was kind enough to say, hey, you guys can do the Upper East Side. So it was his idea. It was, in a weird way, his idea in the very beginning, because he came to breakfast that morning when I got my 5th degree. And then it was his idea to do this gym. And here we are today at the Upper East Side. And I want to just emphasize, I know I've taught a lot of fighting. I've had a lot of kids in the UFC, and I used to have the guy that was a light heavyweight champion in Bellator and been around many champions. I saw Gordon grow up in the gym, and Nicky Ryan, and they were 16 years old. Nicky was 12 years old. I don't think either one ever went to school, but I saw all of them. And yeah, I get it. The BJJ has a lot to do with fighting, but for us, like the community, the environment, you come into the Upper East Side, and this is how we run the gym. The vibe matters so much to us. Like that, everybody is supportive, everybody's encouraging, and it's like that all the time across the board. I know the gym I know what the art revolves around fighting. To me, it has nothing to do with fighting. It's meditative. You also get endorphins released from exercising. I say sometimes when I'm teaching class, I yell out in a comic way. I yell out, you want to get good at fighting? You want to look good at the beach? You want to lose weight? Happens right now. And when you're pushing those rounds, you get so much benefit out of BJJ. I had my nephew, he goes to the University of Pittsburgh, and he came into town, and I asked him to come to the gym, and I wasn't going to be there. And I'm a presence at the Henzo Gracie at headquarters. I've been there for so long. Everybody knows. And he said to him, he didn't show up. And I said, why didn't you go? And he said, yeah, I was just so nervous to walk in there. And I went, you were why? But I've been there so long that it's not, you just get used to it. And I said, what are you nervous about? He said, man, it's intimidating to walk in there. And I was like, wow, you know what? You're right. And so I encourage people, it's not an intimidating thing. Like, you got to, I know in this beginning, you're like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. Am I going to get beat up? And so come try it out. It's incredible what it can do for your body, what it can do for your mind, what it can do spiritually. I found that over the course of 25 years, like, and he's a perfect example of this, is like, yeah, I have childhood friends, but there's no friends like the bond that me and him have. Like, we have tried to kill each other on the mat at times. And I know that when I'm outside and I need something or I'm in trouble, like, sorry, I could get emotional about this. I could look to my left and I know that he would be there. And so I just encourage people to try it. It's a really, really beautiful art that transforms your life in many, many ways.
So my question, it's related to that. And cool, you said it was your cousin or your nephew? I'm sorry.
Nephew.
Your nephew.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many people like that. And you had, you're stating that it's important to you, the culture, the feelings. So brand new person, never done any jiu-jitsu. They're in the area. Like, how have you designed this for them to feel when they walk in here? What is it that you're hoping to have them feel?
Our front desk people are all carefully selected, right? We don't want people who are looking at their phones and aren't really interested in the person who walks in the door, right? Everybody who's here loves jiu-jitsu, cares about the environment, they care about the vibe, and they all want to be here. They all have the same vision, right? It's possible that everybody here is at least one of my students, right? We're all from the morning class, and everybody has the same vision and the same goal, right? We've also structured the classes in a way that I think for an academy with one room, I think we've done a pretty good job of separating like the introduction people from maybe the more experienced players, whether it be with like a foundations program for leg locks followed by an all levels class, or splitting the room into groups where like maybe a newer group will focus on like the fundamental foundations of the position or the philosophy of where you need to be versus the other people who work on more of the technical aspects that may be over the head of somebody who's just walking in the door, right? Because it's hard. Jiu-jitsu is hard, right? Like we practice and we're doing, and even I forget sometimes, like I'm doing these things and for me it's easy, but I spend hours after class practicing these movements. These people are just walking in the door for the first time. And it can be frustrating when you see this guy who just flips his hips and does this thing and you're like, I don't even remember what I'm supposed to do with my hand. How am I supposed to move like that, right? And it can be very overwhelming, right? I think being able to parse the class like that and break them up into different groups and keeping like that, it's a mentality of what most people are new, and you have to like, you can't just tell them like shrimp and flip their hips. They don't know what you're talking about. So you have to break things down for them, you know?
Yeah. We're really encouraging with member retention so important in this because the attrition rate is so high that we're really critical in making sure that they're learning the art, because everybody, you get the happy pill by success. Like that makes you feel good. So that could be that doesn't have to be that you dominated or submitted somebody. That could just be that you survived. I also want to say that BJJ builds a mindset. In today's society, people are on SRIs, or they call it SSRIs, and I see this all the time. Yeah, antidepressants. The world's full of it right now. And the human mind has about 60,000 thoughts a day, 48,000 of the negatives. Like you already start off with more than 3/4 your thoughts in a negative process. BJJ just believes when you're constantly learning how to fight, recover, get up, try to get to a better position, it builds a mindset that transfers over into everyday life.
So is that mindset the key for, you brought up retention, and you guys have built a very successful gym here. Are you at the number of members you want? Are you still trying to grow? And love to know more about, so when did you actually open? And then what was that journey like? I'm sure you had your ups and downs, but I'd love to know more about that.
Well, I've been in construction for 40 years. I grew up as an electrical contractor in a family business. Been around construction my whole life. So I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to permitting and construction. All the lighting in this place was done by my guys. I have a little bit of a head start in building a place out. I've also done a lot of businesses. I've had 4 health clubs that are 12 to 15,000 square feet. I've owned 3 restaurants. they're all mom and pop businesses, but I have a lot of experience in building a small business, also in building it out. All of the places that I've done, I've built myself. So I have a little bit of a head start in starting stuff. I wouldn't say it's too many downs. If anything's downs, you'd always want more members, but I wouldn't say anything down. The downs happened a long time ago, 20 years ago when I first opened the gym. But I learned like boots on the ground, basics, guerrilla warfare, put a stand outside, hit every street fair, put a stand on the corner up there, hand out flyers, do anything you can to get them up here. Then on top of that, our other partner is incredible at sales. I mean, people sometimes, and this goes into something totally different outside of BJJ. People will worry about, in business, right? They'll put the carriage before the horse. They might worry about who's going to be the instructor and what the name of the building outside is. But bottom line is in the very beginning, after you build a place, is getting people to walk through the door and closing that deal. That is number one. Then after that, it's customer service. Then it becomes customer service as part of cleanliness. Instruction is down the line, but people worry about what instructor is going to teach. I'll get anybody to teach. I don't have to diminish it that much, but when we're talking about business, it's customer service, and that is the number one thing. And then the rest is small. Yeah, the rest is really small. We opened in July 1st. Yeah, July 1st. We are in, last year. We have over 300 members in 9 months. I think the facility is going to continue to grow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Me and a couple of guys out here, we were standing on the corner here on 86th and Lexington
Yeah.
all winter, pointing up at this building that had no sign on it.
Yeah.
No indication that there's ever going to be anything up there, just pointing up and telling people about it.
Yeah.
We had some blueprints. We had picked out some materials. I got somebody on Fiverr to make a 3D rendering and a walkthrough video. And we were showing people on the iPad what the space would look like and pointing up at the windows and telling them we're going to be here. And if you give us your credit card, then you can come check it out. And we had collected like over almost 350 people who had signed up just from standing on the corner out there.
What's really crazy is we had a young man that was helping us with sales in the beginning. And the very first day he goes, there's nothing to sell. I go, no, you're going to sell. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I opened the first gym in Brooklyn and Williamsburg, it's actually still there. It's called Chalk. It's on North 9th and Driggs. And I ended up selling it. But when I first opened it, I didn't have any money. And I had to make this work. And me and my partner signed up over 800 people on a pre-sale. You couldn't even walk in the gym because the building wasn't finished yet, with a small trailer and a bunch of little signs. And he told me you can't do it. I said, no, you're going to go up on that corner. You're going to pass out these flyers and we're going to start open the doors with 300 members. And so anybody starting off the business, one of the very first things, if I give you advice, get your ass on the street right away. Like the moment you sign that lease, that pre-sale starts.
It's impressive in 9 months to be at 300 students. That's amazing. What are you guys targeting for this space? What's your max capacity?
We think that we'll max out at about 450 to 500. I don't think you can handle more than that. Everybody would love to say like, oh, I'd love to get to 700. You just balance out, because what'll end up happening is you'll just be too crowded. You won't have enough time in the locker room. There won't be enough showers. People will end up leaving you. We feel that we could sit somewhere around the 500 mark and service everybody really well.
Tell us about how you found us. How'd you find Gymdesk and what's been your experience so far?
I think it was just Google, right? I think you guys advertised as being specific to martial arts academy. It was definitely on my list of people to check. And I checked out every, right? One of the things I liked about Gymdesk is the check-in feature, right? I like the idea of having people check in, right? And then being able to see who's in the class right on the dashboard. I don't like the traditional system where you dig through a box, you find your card, you take your card downstairs, you put it on the bench. The guy upstairs, sitting at the desk that you just took the card from, comes downstairs, picks up your card, goes back upstairs to the desk that you just got it from, and then manually enters it into this. To me, it's a crazy system. So I didn't want to have that kind of inefficiency. I don't want to pay somebody to sit there at the desk and check key punch, right? We don't need data entry people. But I also like that when you're starting a business, the expenses are high and your income is very low in the beginning, right? Gymdesk had like kind of that sliding scale, right? Where you could start with 0 to 50 members and it wasn't like $700 a month right out of the box. We don't even have any members. You're going to charge me $700 for the software. So the scale increase the price as your membership grows, I think was also very helpful for us. Yeah. I also find that the operating system is very intuitive. I like the way it works. The look of it, look and feel, it's nice.
Awesome to hear. I'm glad you appreciate the pricing, because from our perspective, if we can help you grow, then we both win.
Yeah.
This is why we've invested a lot into the marketing. Have you guys used the marketing automation?
Absolutely, yeah. For automated emails and everything. Yeah, we're all over.
Yeah.
My background is in marketing.
Okay,
I love data. I love marketing.
Have you seen the templates we have in there already as well?
Yeah, the email templates.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a bunch of templates for different workflows in the marketing automation that we put in.
We're utilizing all of them.
That's beautiful. I'm playing around with the app. I have a little dojo attached to my office, actually. Here's where I teach my kids, and I'm giving them different moves. But have you seen when you can do belt progressions, you can also add skills? Are you guys utilizing the skills?
We don't really promote that way, but I have seen that feature.
Yeah.
With the tests, and you could set up like specific knowledge areas that you want them to learn before you move them on to the next level. Yeah, it's all very innovative, very creative stuff.
Yeah, only because you guys already have the content. I think if you have videos about, let's say, a Kimura armbar, Americana, whatever you have, you can put that as a skill in there and link to your video.
Yeah.
So then your student, when they're at home, they're like, oh, you just did whatever class. They can see the description. They click on your video straight from the membership app. It's built into the app now. So all you need to do is set up the skill.
So you could set up like a profile. So let's say to go from white belt to blue belt, you have to know these 25 skills.
That's right.
And then you could check them off as they go. And then you could add links so they could see like what those moves are. You could record the lesson in class and upload it. You could link to like YouTube videos. Yeah, it's a cool feature.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you ever, some folks will use it to also promote or at least give somebody a rating. Like, all right, guys, today we're going to check your arm bar, and then you can give them either a pass fail or 5 stars, 3 stars, whatever. So then they know, okay, I'm good here, but I'm really weak over here. That's something else that you could potentially leverage.
And the help desk is very, very great too. We called them almost every day for a month.
Yeah.
I don't think the guy hated our gut. We didn't care. Yeah, we just kept calling.
Who'd you speak to?
It was a couple of people. It was
Okay.
a while ago.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And as I mentioned, I've been here for 7 months.
Yeah.
And we were adding more and more layers into our support and customer success to help. First of all, I want to go out there and meet customers like we're doing here today, but how can we best serve you? We came up with a couple of ideas. So if I am in your shoes, there's 2 things that I would think about, like grouping all of our features and functionality. Number 1 is let's reduce the administrative work that you just mentioned, the cards, get rid of. So we call that less admin, anything to speed you up there. And then we have more members. And we believe that with those 2 things, if we focus our product, our services, everything around that, then I go back to, we're adding a little bit more to our mantra here, our company mission, but just helping you unleash your passion. Because I think this is what it's all about, right? Giving you as much time here and you don't have to mess around with all the things that aren't that fun, all the office work and that kind of thing.
For anyone who's never trained, but is very curious and very nervous, what would you say to them?
Oh man, you have to get over it. Yeah, you have to get over it. Yeah, this is whatever you think is going to happen when you get here. Jiu-jitsu will change your life for sure. It changed my life. Everybody comes here because they want to learn how to fight, whatever they say, right? Like, everybody wants to know how to defend themselves. They want to get in shape. They watch the UFC, but when you stick around for a little while, you really do fall in love with the art of this, right? And every day it becomes less and less about fighting and more about movement and practice and discipline. They're just people, the world is full of procrastination, man. Just that day, wake up and just do it, man. Just do it. And just walk in and say, I want to do this and get started. You'll give yourself a million reasons, and how you do anything is how you everything. That just won't be in BJJ. That'll be in other parts of your life. Whether you didn't clean your closet, whether you didn't make your bed, whether you didn't eat well, like you can't change yesterday, but you can change tomorrow. And that's just being like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning, and just go. And then, like what I was saying earlier about BJJ, just if you start to capture that mentality, it'll transfer over to other parts of your life and how you do everything.
Yeah, come on down to Henzo Gracie, East Side. If you're in the New York area, come check it out. And how'd they find you? What's the best way? Website?
Yep, the website is HenzoGracieEastside.com. You can find us on Instagram, Henzo Gracie Eastside, the Happy Pill Project on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, we post full class videos on YouTube. About 20-minute long videos, deep dive into technique, and then some shorter techniques, a lot of inspirational stuff on Instagram.